So good morning, everybody. It's 10 a.m. on the 5th of March, 2025, and welcome to the Harbours Advisory Committee today. For the benefit of the public, I am Councillor Rob Hughes, Chair of this committee. The meeting is being live streamed and the recording will also be available on the website after the meeting. Can I remind anyone that when they are speaking, please speak directly into your microphones and for members to introduce themselves when they first speak. For information today, the supporting officers involved in the meeting. The members to introduce themselves. Only when they speak.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. For information, supporting officers involved in the meeting include Ken Buchan, Head of Environment and Wellbeing, James Radcliffe, Bridport and Lyme Regis Harbour Master, Ed Carter, Harbour Managers, Matthew Penny, Services Manager for the FCERM, Claire Connolly, Harbour Business Manager, Lara Altry, Legal Business Partner, Kevin Evans, Senior Accountant, Joshua Kennedy, Democratic Services Officer. And item 1 on the agenda is apologies. Josh, do we have any apologies, please?
Thank you. Yes, so we've had apologies from Councillor Ray Bryan, but he is in attendance online this morning.
Thank you, Josh. Item 2, minutes of the Harbours Advisory Committee from the 4th of December to confirm the minutes of the meeting. Is everybody happy to confirm the meeting this morning? The minutes of the previous meeting? Take that as a yes. Thank you very much. And I will sign those later. Item 3, declarations of interest. Does anybody have an interest they wish? Yes, Richard, good morning.
Yes, good morning. Richard Tinsley, Independent. Yes, I hold a berth on Weymouth Marina.
Thank you very much, Richard. Does anybody else have any interest to mention at this point? No? Okay. Moving on. Item 4 is public participation. And we have a question from Nick Marks, who is in attendance online. And if I can pass over to Nick now. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, and good morning. My question concerns Phase 5 of the Lyme Regis Environmental Improvement Scheme. A bit of background, if I may. The historic Cobb Harbour in Lyme Regis serves as both a protective breakwater and a safeguard against erosion and flooding along the Lyme Bay coastline. Throughout its long history, the structure has required periodic repair and strengthening using contemporary materials and techniques to ensure its continued viability. Structural investigations over the last 2 decades have revealed that the harbour is suffering from destabilisation caused by wave impact and sea floor erosion. Work to stabilise the structure is needed to avoid further damage and ultimate catastrophic failure. The stabilisation work was designated as Phase 5 and was approved by West Dorset District Council in 2018. Due to resource constraints, the work was placed on hold until September 2020, when a project engineer was appointed, and at this time, the remedial work was forecast to commence in winter 2022-23. In December 2022, an FCRM report to the HAC stated that the council had gained approval for an outline proposal. Engagement had been made with Historic England, Natural England and the MMO, with a projected start date of summer 2024. In September 2023, the HAC noted that due to inflationary pressure, funding would no longer be sufficient for the full project, and alternative funding routes were being looked at. An FCRM update forecast a construction start date of summer 2025. In June 2024, the FCRM states that funding from central government was hoped to be secured and that construction was forecast for autumn 2025. In June 2024, FCRM states that funding from central government, at a recent in June 24, could I go? A recent 10th of February this year update from FCRM concludes that funding for Phase 5 has still not been found, and the negotiations with Historic England, Natural England and the MMO on a suitable design continue. The projected start time for this work has now slipped again to autumn 2026. Now, from the dates I've just outlined, it can be seen there's been a year-by-year slip in the programme. The funding gap has not been filled, and there appears to be no agreed design. Now, my question, Chairman, is this. What assurance can Dorset Council give to the residents of Lyme Regis that Phase 5 is seen as a priority for the Council and that all necessary steps are being taken to resolve the funding shortfall and break the perceived stalemate between the Council project team and regulatory bodies to reach an agreed design which can be implemented as soon as possible?
Thank you for your question, Mr. Marks. If I could please ask Matthew Penny to read the response to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Formal response goes as Lyme Regis Environmental Improvement Scheme Phase 5 comprises a civil engineering scheme to strengthen and stabilise the COB structure and deliver improvements to the utility services and surfaces. Currently, there is a funding shortfall to deliver the scheme, and the Flood and Coastal Erosion Risk Management team are currently progressing discussions with potential funders with the intent to close the funding gap. Currently, there is national uncertainty regarding future DEFRA flood defence grant and aid allocations, that including for Lyme Regis Environmental Improvement Scheme Phase 5, which is a further challenge to project funding. Dorset Council has recently approved a capital funding bid for Lyme Regis Environmental Improvement Scheme Phase 5, which includes council-funded capital contributions for the project. The Flood and Coastal Erosion Risk Management project team has recently completed a value engineering design as part of the pre-construction stage. In addition, this stage has completed formal pre-application service engagement with Historic England and Natural England, along with providing updated construction cost estimates with specialist contractor advice. Natural England have provided positive feedback to the value engineering design proposals. The Flood and Coastal Erosion Risk Management project team are continuing further discussions with Historic England for further pre-application advice, and we are awaiting feedback prior to procuring consultancy services for the detailed design stage. Construction is anticipated to commence in autumn 2026. It is our intention to hold public engagement and awareness sessions later in the year. These events will also explore how and when commercial users in particular access the COB and how access can be reasonably maintained. This information can hopefully help find the least disruptive solution to facilitating construction.
Thank you very much, Matthew, for that response. Thank you, Nick, again for your question. Moving on to item 5 on the agenda today is my update for what's been happening, which has been a quiet period, obviously, over the Christmas break. But on the 28th of January, Councillor John Andrews, brief holder, and myself attended the meeting in West Bay for the business hut owners. This meeting also included members of the FCERM team and the Harbour Master, James Radcliffe. The meeting was all about the walls at A and B and the repair design and progress, and also the delay in getting permission from the MMO. It was nice, as I say, to meet the hut owners and for them to give us their time and raise their questions. I've also attended both the West Bay and Lyme Regis Consultative Group meetings in February. Unfortunately, I could not make the Weymouth meeting as it was full council on the same evening, so my apologies were sent to them. I can finally confirm that interviews for the 2 vacant non-elected members of this committee will be taking place on the 12th of March in the Weymouth and Harbour Master's office. We have had 5 applications and all 5 applicants will be interviewed. Also, as this is our last Harbours meeting before Dr. Ken Buchan will be leaving the council in April, I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you to Ken from all of the consultative groups that have known him for a long time and are not here today to say so in person, and to thank him for his support over the years to them all. And on behalf of the Harbours Advisory Committee, I would personally like to add all our thanks for his excellent advice he has given to us all over his long years within the Council. Thank you very much, Ken. Thank you. And that concludes my update. I can do that. There's one other point to mention on my report, which is the idea to change our meetings going forward from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. in the afternoon on a Wednesday. And does anybody have any issues with it being an afternoon meeting? Does anybody like to say anything at this point?
Yes, sorry, I'm not available in the afternoon, so I wouldn't be able to attend or online either.
Thank you, Emma, for that. You?
Yeah, I was just going to say, considering it's market day in Dorchester on a Wednesday, having meetings in the afternoon would make life a lot easier for those that travel in by car.
Thank you, Sarah. Anybody else wish to add anything? Yes, Mike.
Yeah, Mike Baker, West Purbeck. Why are we weighted to Wednesdays when there's clearly an issue with Wednesdays with parking? Surely we should move it to a more sensible day rather than having it when there's no parking at County Hall, no parking virtually anywhere in the town.
Thank you. That is to do mainly with officers' time and availability of officers. I'm afraid, Mike, to have it on a different day because the meetings have been set for all the different departments of the council, and some meetings are taking place on a Thursday in this room already, so we can't take that space from them, I'm afraid.
In that case, can we set some parking aside at County Hall for those attending this meeting on a Wednesday? It shouldn't be rocket science.
We can ask. Okay, anybody else with a question? No? Ray Bryan online. Thank you, Ray, for waving.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I wasn't getting ignored. Morning, everybody. Sorry I can't be with you. It's for personal reasons. Certainly nothing to do with not wanting to be there, because I did want to be there. I've got to say I object to this change. It will mean that we lose the whole day because people will travel in and people then have to get home. So we're going to, I would have to make sure that I've got from mid-morning to the end of the day, whereas at the moment I can travel in my own time to get there for a morning meeting, and then we normally finish by lunchtime, so I've still got half a day of time available. I don't understand the reason for this. I'm sure there's some personal reasons somewhere, but I do object to it, and I'm not sure that I can actually make it to declare a whole day for a single meeting. That's my point.
Thank you very much, Ray. And as I said, it was a request for us to look at the issue. We will look at it and discuss it further, I'm sure, before any decision is made on times and changes once I've spoken to Democratic Services. Thank you. Item 6 is consultative group meetings minutes, and to receive the minutes of the following Harbour Consultative Group meeting: Bridport, West Bay, from Emma Bourne, who is here today. Thank you, Emma.
Thank you, Chair. I won't repeat all the minutes. I'm sure everyone's read them. I'd just like to make 2 points. If it would be acceptable to this committee, our terms of reference have come up short in a couple of issues. And if Ed and I could get together and submit a draft for your consideration for the next meeting, that would be very useful. And the next point, I'm afraid, is parking. We have, it could be completely perceived issue with parking, all sorts of things, but we got some very useful data about transaction numbers, but that was only for, I think, April 22 to December 23. And if we could have some more up-to-date figures so that we can actually answer questions with facts rather than supposition, which is just fueling the issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emma. We'll see if we can get that information for you. Next, it's Lyme Regis, which will be Nick Parks again to introduce. Thank you, Nick.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I won't, as Emma said, I won't go through the whole minutes, just to pick out a few points. The first one is the date of the minutes is incorrect. The meeting was held on the 6th of February rather than the 16th of October 2024. At the last meeting, I indicated that my 3-year tenure as chair comes to an end in March, and I will be stepping down at the next meeting as chair, but still staying on as the RNLI rep on the group. I'd like to echo your earlier comments, Chairman, on Ken Buckin's leaving. Ken has been a great supporter of us in Lyme Regis, and he will be sorely missed. So we wish him all the best for the future. In the Harbour Masters update, James reported on plans to change the means of dredging the harbour to a water injection dredging method, and our members did raise some concerns about the plume that would be generated from this means of dredging and where that sediment plume would end up, in particular on the local reef systems. Members felt might be at some threat, and we welcome the opportunity to look at some of the surveys and the baseline and the modelling that's being done to reassure people that this is not going to cause a problem in the area. I mentioned phase 5 in my question. There is considerable concern about the slippage of phase 5, and members asked me to raise a question, which I have now done. Finally, from user reports, the harbour is going to be well used this year, both by the Sailing Club, who are hosting the Firefly Nationals in August, our own Lyme Regis Lifeboat Week, and Gig Regatta, and the Lyme Splash event in September. So it will be very well used this year. And finally, in any other business, a question was raised once again about dog fouling in the fishing areas, the fish and landing areas. Fishermen are concerned that dogs allowed on that area, fouling in the area, in an area where fish is being landed. And that seemed to be unhygienic, and some thought needs to be given to how this can be controlled. And that, Chairman, is my report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Marks. Moving on next to Weymouth, we have Tim Day with us today. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Chair. Comparatively quiet time of the year. The meeting was quiet as well because it managed to clash with the full council meeting. Just a couple of highlights from the report. The Boat Folk group, who own the marina or run the marina in the Upper Harbour and over at Portland, has been put up for sale and is expected to be sold in the next 6 to 12 months. So we're looking forward to see what happens there. The town harbour representative, the traders' representatives, and the commercial people reporting it is a quiet time, very quiet time of year, and there are some concerns over the impact of the national minimum wage and other measures, a national insurance increase. And a question was asked about whether or not the harbour could be utilised, Weymouth Harbour could be utilised for the transfer of people from the cruise liners from Portland using the cruise liners' own boats. And then another couple of things, the town bridge drain. Well, we've heard that the council engineers are looking into it, which is a good thing to be doing with a hole in the ground, rather traditional. The sand jetty structure, there were questions asked over that, but there has been assurance from the structural engineers that it is still sound. And in the local press, it has been coming up about the Radipole Lake, possible dredging of that, though it's strictly outside the harbour limit. Obviously, the harbour users would be very interested to know what was going on in there. And nothing else to report. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that update, Tim. Good to hear it all. And Ed Carter would like to say something.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. If I may, my apologies. There appears to have been a mistake with the minutes being submitted in these papers, as the minutes for the Lyme Regis Consultative Group are, as Nick says, appear to be the minutes from previous October rather than the minutes from the immediately last meeting. So that's something we will make right, of course, in the minutes publicly available, and apologies for that.
Thank you for confirming that will be sorted out. Thank you. Moving on to item 7 is Harbour Master updates. And as usual, we will start with James Radcliffe, our West Bay Bridport Harbour Master. Thank you, James.
Thank you, Chair. So starting with the stats for Bridport, the season tickets and launching visitor and boats nights, as expected, wouldn't have moved since last reporting over the winter period. Our quayside parking use has increased, and this is mainly down to the area, as previously reported, being opened up to all harbour users. Our shop income is slightly down to this time last year, but we would expect to see an increase now with the winter maintenance starting. Now the weather has slightly improved. The diving airfields have seen an increase this year. Again, previously reported the leisure divers had seen an increase, and commercial divers are still using it even through the winter when the weather's allowing them to do so. We're currently in our mooring renewal process, and even though the deadline of the 1st of February has passed, we're still chasing up a few outstanding customers. The applications to join the waiting list are continuously being received, and we're actively making offers for suitable vessels for the moorings we have available ready for the season. And currently the mooring occupancy is at 69% for private and 46% for commercial. For Lyme Regis, the stats really are very similar to Bridport, with the launch in season tickets and visiting boat nights. Our boat lifts and quayside parking are comparable to last year. And again, the shop is the same picture as Bridport, slightly down, but we're hoping with the winter maintenance that will pick up over this next month. Lyme's, as Bridport, is in the renewal process, and our mooring occupancy for private is 67% and 86% for commercial. Our staff training, staff have completed some patrol and enforcement workshops, first aid courses, and we have some beach masters courses planned for later this year and a marine investigation course in April. As we've heard, the consultative groups both all met in February, and the minutes have already been presented for these today. I'd like to take the opportunity to welcome Emma as the new chair for Bridport, and thank Simon Miles for his time as the previous chair. And also take this opportunity to thank Nick Marks for the chair of Lyme Regis, who plans to step down in the meeting in May. The Harbour Revision Orders. The British Ports Association announced in February that the Department of Transport have now confirmed that they are able to share that they have provided additional funding for legal support to help clear delays in processing harbour revision orders at the MMO. Whilst currently we don't know if this will have any direct impact on the timescale of Bridport and Lyme Regis HROs, is a step in the right direction and confirms reports we've been hearing for our legal channels and Harbour Masters associations. Moving to Bridport on the Harbour Works. During February, we managed to replace the timber piles on the southern wall of the East Basin. All the piles, a lot of them just being remaining stumps at the bottom of the wall, were removed, and the new timbers purchased from Bournemouth were installed. Harbour chain maintenance at the west side of the harbour, it's become impossible now for the staff to maintain the chains. So we've had to remove them all from the harbour. This required getting a vessel in from Portland to lift all the chains out for us, and currently the harbour staff are going through all the chains, replacing what needs to be done, ready to be installed, hopefully by the end of this month, ready for the season to start in April. Following on from last year with the new bin housings, we've been talking with the Waste Partnership, and the plan is to increase the number of bins that we made last year, and which will increase the capacity. And then moving forward, the plan will be to remove all the small bins and go to just a wheelie bin empty process. So there'll be no, and this will reduce our bins that we currently have 50 plus around the harbour at the moment to about 14. On the East Pier at West Bay, there's been 2 new webcams installed. You can see views from the east and towards the west, and these are live streamed through the Dorset Council YouTube channel. We plan to make more planters later this year, ready for the season. And then plans are currently being put together for the redevelopment of the Black Hut on the East Pier, and we hope to submit these plans within the next few weeks. At Lyme Regis, the harbour storage building is now complete. It has a small defect list which is being completed before the final sign-off. And as part of these works, additional parking spaces were created, and these were allocated to cob traders and commercial harbour users. The north wall, the timber piles have been were badly affected by the gribble and are completely rotten, and these now have been replaced, and the new timbers have all been installed this week. There's plans to install the new depth boards at Lyme Regis on the end of the north wall and Victoria Pier, hopefully towards the during March, sometime during March, on the next spring tides. Dredging for both harbours is currently being investigated. Harbour staff are working with the FSERM team and in talks with Natural England regarding a proposed trial dredge using water injection rather than cutter suction. Water injection has many benefits, with one of the main one being a cost reduction to the budget. At Lyme Regis, the beach works and the dredging will be a separate works, with the harbour concentrating on the dredging operation. Incidents, the harbour team at West Bay, along with the FSERM team, deployed the flood barrier in January, as storm predictions from the Environment Agency indicated a requirement to do so. Aids to navigation, Trinity House conducted inspections in January and found everything to be in good order, apart from the items listed in the report. Some painting is required and some maintenance on 2 of the poles to upright them. And there's a full list of maritime events at the end of the report, and the calendar is looking quite full for both harbours. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, James. We move on now to Weymouth Harbour and Ed Carter. Sorry, I think we have a question from Richard first before we move on.
Yeah, Richard Tinsley, Independent. Just a question on the Trinity House. I know the intent is good to just remedy these minor defects as soon as possible. Do we have a date or target date for rectification?
Yes, they'll be rectified this month. Hopefully by the end of this month, it should all be done.
Thank you. Moving on now to Ed Carter, the Harbours manager. Oh, it's Ray Wade. Ray, did you have your hand up? Sorry, we thought we saw you with your hand up. It's hard to see this little screen to our left from this distance. Carry on, Ed.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman, and good morning, members. The update for Weymouth, taking a look at our occupancy over the year, our marina occupancy peaked at 92.2 in August, slightly below the peak of 2023, although still a very good result, and a better picture that is being reported in some other similar South Coast ports. Our current occupancy is 75.6, which is very normal for the time of year, as you can see on the established pattern in the chart shown below, as we move through the season and we move through our renewals process with people giving berths up and new people coming in. And we have no reason to suspect that we won't be following the same pattern next year, and we hope to achieve high occupancy again. Moorings is interest in moorings is good, as again remaining in the larger boat sector primarily, and we're not seeing anything outside the usual in the number of berths not being renewed for the following year. Our commercial berths, an unchanging picture here, continuing at almost 100% let, with the remaining couple of spaces still due to, on the midstream pontoon, access issues or a berth that's too small, and the vessels we've got waiting are simply too big to fit the current space. Moving on to some statistics, I'm very pleased to report that over the year we've come out ahead of profile with our visiting leisure craft revenue at 8.8% against last year's profile, which is a really good position to be in. We're continuing to see a decline over the continued decline over the last few years of slipway and PwC permit use. Again, that's a continuing picture. Number of bridge lifts has increased, although the overall number of vessels transiting the bridge is slightly down last year. Is slightly down on last year, which again is continuing the picture that we're seeing with some of the vessels that are being used a lot, while a large number of vessels are not being used at all. Number of non-resident fishing vessel visits remaining high, 86%. Partly due to a single vessel visiting much more regularly this year, and coupled with an increased and improved monitoring of the facility. So an increase of 86% overall on number of chargeable visits at the Fish Landing Quay this year. Generally, over another very wet and windy winter period, harbours across the South Coast have experienced varied levels of activity due to the economy, weather and environmental factors. In Weymouth, the recreational leisure marine has seen a steady demand for winter berths, with income from winter berthing up by over 20% on last year. And commercial activities, of course, have continued, with fishing vessels making the most of any break in the weather. Harbours and marine businesses generally are facing huge challenges driven by the UK's weaker than expected economic performance at the end of last year, and persistent inflation is affecting consumer spending power. There are signs of improvement as real wages increase, potentially boosting activities over the coming months, and we look forward to hopefully a nice hot and dry summer with some good boating conditions. Revenue, as I said, from visiting craft has remained just ahead of the 2023 profile. Other harbours reporting the summer have been generally very quiet, both in the recreational and commercial sectors. Revenue from the slipway and water sports permits again shows this annual decline. Weymouth Sailing Club recently obtained a marine licence for improvements to their pontoon adjacent to Hooker's Dock. The improvements have taken place pretty much on almost finished now, I think, as we're moving towards into March. All the improvements have taken place within their existing lease area, and it includes a widening of their outer pontoon and the addition of an extra arm for allowing walk-ashore access to the quayside. In December, the old pontoons were removed, and only last week the new pilings were put in, and the pontoon sections are being assembled and put into place as we move through into this month. I'm fully expecting it to be up and running before the start of the season, and look forward to going and having a look around. Incidents since the last meeting, only recorded 11 incidents since the last meeting, including a person being pursued by police, jumping into the water, a mooring buoy that had dragged in bad weather from Castle Cove was struck by a vessel. We had a person sleeping in the shower facilities at the Harbour office. We believed they entered, someone who was allowed to enter the facilities, opened the door and held the door open for them, it would appear, which is how they gained access. A person in a berth in the marina reported damage from being struck by an unknown moving vessel. We had a report of a vessel fire. where it was found that batteries were overheating and subsequently were isolated by Harbour staff, and there was no need for fire services to attend. Fencing surrounding the wall repair at Green Hill washed onto the beach again during very stormy conditions, and we did have a couple of reports of diesel fuel on the water. Following previous reports on the review of our processes recording incidents, we finished our changes now at Weymouth, and the process providing a more streamlined process for all of our staff to log incidents is in place, with all the web-based forms being updated. We're going to be reviewing the year's incidents as a whole as we reach the end of this current year, and we'll present a more in-depth analysis of the entire year at the June meeting. This new reporting system structure is also going to be being incorporated at Bridport and Lyme Regis, and we're hoping to bring some analysis of the incidents from all 3 Dorset harbours in June. Moving on to operations, oil spill and response. We've completed all the MCA requirements for demonstrating preparedness in controlling pollution over the past year, which includes regular training and exercises, testing our deployment capabilities, notification of external bodies, everything that's detailed in our oil spill contingency plan. Compliance with these regulations, which are formalised under the Merchant Shipping Act, are formally reported at the end of each year, and that's been accepted by the MCA. In the light of a spill that we saw early in the new year, where a slick of diesel and small spots of engine oil were found in the harbour, we did actually mobilise a Tier 1 response, and we deployed some absorbent resources, and we did make external notification of our actions in this case. Although we do believe the spill originated within the harbour, we were not able to definitively identify a source of the spill. We believe it was most likely to be a pump out of some oily bilge water from a vessel. As we were not able to identify a source, I wrote to all of the berth holders within the harbour, and the sailing club and boat folk as well very kindly agreed, circulated the same letter to all of their berth holders, really just kind of, reminding people of their responsibilities, that these things need to be disposed of correctly. We have facilities for the, disposal of oil and that sort of thing. And again, urging people, we know accidents do happen, we know mistakes are made, we're in a position to help should these things happen, and we, really urge people to get hold of us. And again, I've reported the same through the Harbour Consultative Group, asking the representatives of the various sectors to, engage with their groups to make sure that people are doing what they can to dispose of oil safely and responsibly. A brief update on the Harbour Revision Order. Following the Cabinet approval in November, the application has now been formally submitted to the Marine Management Organisation. Ahead of this report at the time of writing, I've now heard that the application has been verified, and we're now in the queue for public consultation for them. So we're now waiting to hear back there. As we've explained before, we're seeking to amend the open port duty, allowing it to be restricted to vessels under 24 metres in length. While, of course, we will remain welcome to vessels over 24 metres, such as tall ships. We've got a tall ship coming in this year. We're hoping to see the Waverley come in September. This change will allow us to move forward with a more sustainable and commercially viable use of our infrastructure and aligning with the Council's long-term vision for the area. At present, the unrestricted open port duty requires us to maintain infrastructure for very large commercial vessels, despite us not operating a ferry service for many years, and creates, of course, financial and spatial constraints. This is a significant milestone, realistically, in delivering a flexible and forward-thinking approach to harbour operations. We're hoping very much that this will support local businesses, tourism, and, of course, the wider economy. We're continuing to engage with stakeholders and keep everyone updated, and we're awaiting the further developments from the MMO now on the progression of the Harbour Revision Order. Some staff training over the last few months. Harbour Masters, myself and James, and all of our assistant Harbour Masters from the 3 harbours attended a patrol and enforcement workshop in Plymouth in February. This was a seminar, really, where, bringing together people from harbours across the southwest, looking at strategic approaches to enforcement, overarching principles and practical application. This complements, of course, our existing management systems, emergency plans, pollution response. And senior harbour staff are also attending an incident investigation training course, which is being held in Southampton in April. Several staff in Weymouth have recently undergone gas safe awareness training, which is allowing them to use an oxy-fuel gas cutting equipment, which is a valuable addition to our workshop capabilities. And we're looking at options for further specialist training, such as marine engine servicing. We're exploring those in the interest of, across the 3 harbours, enabling our already very competent teams to complete more work in-house and further reduce our reliance on, and of course, the cost of using external providers. Harbour management software and Harbour Assist, as members are well aware, we've been exploring options to modernise our management systems, aiming to streamline our processes, improve our service, help ensure compliance with our standards and statutory obligations. Currently, we're relying on multiple disconnected systems, which of course leads to inevitable efficiencies, large administrative burden, and challenges in our financial management. Following a review of available solutions, we have identified as Harbour Assist being the preferred option due to its ability to consolidate key functions, including berth management, invoicing, visitor booking, defect reporting, asset tracking, all into one single system, and not just in Weymouth. This would be across the 3 harbours, which would greatly improve our operational efficiency and customer experience, and aligning, of course, with our strategic objectives. We're working through various procurement and financial constraints that present challenges to this process. Dorset Council currently mandates the use of SAP or DES for financial processes, and Harbour Assist is currently not on the latest government procurement framework, which makes a direct procurement more complex. Additionally, the Council's Enterprise Resource Planning Replacement Project is underway with implementation scheduled for 2027. It does mean that any changes to financial processes are unlikely in the short term for us. We're continuing working on a cost-benefit analysis to assess the value of Harbour Assist, and we're also, of course, looking at alternative procurement routes, looking at the systems already identified by the Council and how they would potentially fit with our operation. And we're continuing to have discussions with finance, with ICT and procurement to determine the way forward. We're very much looking to work with our colleagues on this, and we'll keep you updated as the process develops. I have to say, this is something that we're very keen to pursue. It's talking from combined many years' experience of working in harbours, we can see that this direction is clear for the harbour. But like I say, we're working with our council colleagues to find the best solution to it all. An update on the removal of pilotage function, which hasn't come in front of the committee for a little while now. In 2022, a review of the pilotage service concluded that maintaining pilotage is no longer operationally or financially viable. A full review was conducted by Marico Marine. It found that pilotage only offers a marginal reduction in risk, and its removal here would not significantly impact safety. With no regular commercial traffic of this size since the cessation of ferry operations, the demand for a pilot or pilotage has declined substantially, with no active pilotage taking place since 2019. Given all of these findings, the recommendation was to commence the process of removing the pilotage function under the Marine Navigation Act, and it was identified the Harbour Authority would enhance existing control measures, including general directions, strengthening the local traffic service, improved IAS monitoring, CCTV, weather station, etc. With the general directions 2024 now in place, we utilise improved AIS monitoring. We have got Newport CCTV systems and a weather station. We are moving ahead with this. Further to recent discussions with our designated person and with the Department for Transport, it transpires there are several harbours that are in a very similar situation, wishing to remove their pilotage function. The DFT is currently wishing to look at this all as one whole, with the goal of issuing one notice that encompasses the change in a number of harbours at once, rather than dealing with a series of smaller notices, and of course, I would imagine making the process considerably longer than it would have to be. Continuing to work with our designated person, which is James Hannon, of course, of ABP Mayor, and with agreement from the DFT, we're looking at amending our current pilotage requirements in the short term and developing further navigational risk assessments, which will allow us to put in place exemptions for certain vessels. This is something that, of course, we would have to do, and we were working towards anyway with the removal of the pilotage function. But as we're now waiting for the DFT to sort of collate all the information, of course, Weymouth as a harbour, we're ready to go now. We could submit if we wanted to, but there's other harbours the DFT are waiting for that are at the start of this process. So like I say, in the short term, we're just looking at what we can do. The pilotage regulations are set at port level. It is up to us to put in place what we believe to be suitable regulations for pilotage. Like I say, working with some very experienced people in the industry to ensure that we're ticking off all of the safety boxes to allow these larger vessels, like I say, things like tall ships. We're very much hoping as well to welcome the Waverley into Weymouth later in the year. And obviously, we'll, of course, continue to review all of our navigational risk assessments. And if traffic levels change in the future, we can, of course, reconsider the need for pilotage as things develop. Moving on to harbour works. We have, as a report at the last meeting, we're working through a really busy schedule of winter maintenance work. Winter maintenance work, obviously in the winter. We've completed a number of these already. The Harbour office redecorated. We've had many rainy days where we were able to get on with that. We've had a full sort of walk around and review with Wessex Water and identified various areas of our fresh water supplies that need a bit of replacement, bit of work doing to ensure that we remain fully compliant with all water supply regulations. That's all been completed. We've added extra emergency escape ladders onto the marina pontoons. We're currently working through a full clean of the pontoons at both marinas. We've got a renovation of the gatehouses at both North Quay and Westway, including roof repairs and repaint, and that's scheduled for this coming month. Also, a couple of navigational day marks, repair and repaint is scheduled for this month. Pontoon access gangways are being repainted where required, and we are, with the renovation of the North Quay shower block, we've actually assigned, I think we after obtaining several quotes, we've actually assigned a contractor for the North Quay shower block, and again, we're hoping the work will be complete before the start of the season. Wherever possible, we're carrying out these works within house, to keep it cost effective, and but while in the balance of keeping our requirements of our statutory duties. There we are, sorry, yeah, the North Quay toilets and showers, yes. We've obtained 3 quotes and we've selected a contractor to carry out the works, and we're going to be replacing all the shower units, including trays, doors and panels, new basins and taps, replacement repair of silicone, broken tiles and grout, and a full deep clean of the facility. This is essentially ahead of, was identified through the Harbours Consultative Group that this shower area had been sort of left for quite a while without any maintenance carried out really at this level. And while, of course, we are working to improve our facilities across the marinas in future, we recognise that we want to keep our facilities in the best working order we can in the short term, obviously, and the long term, of course. Survey works to the town bridge carried out in October. Listed building consent has now been applied for to carry out repair and refurbishment works to the metalwork on parapets and bridge, including repainting. The provisional dates we understand for the work have been penciled in to start around mid-September this year and run for a few months into early December. We're awaiting the final confirmation of this and will, of course, inform Harbour users in advance of any plans for repairs, any effect on bridge operations. I am pleased to report that the Weymouth Quay project area is now open and fishermen are using the area to offload catch, and the chilled stores and ice making facilities are all online. The old fish landing quay on Custom House Quay is going to remain open for a few weeks, allowing fishermen to move their operations across and get settled into the new area. At the end of March, the cranes at the old fish landing quay are going to be decommissioned and the area will be cleared and closed until we decide, in future what's to be done with that area. Fishing gear that's been historically stored on the cargo stage is moving to new storage areas in the compound, which will again return more of the quayside space on the cargo stage back into the public domain. We've put together a comprehensive set of frequently asked questions, which has been circulated to all our commercial users, and we're engaging with fishermen to better understand the individual requirements and their operational needs and how we can continue to improve the service provisions at the quayside area. At the time of writing this report, the fuel pontoon is in the final stages of commissioning and testing. This was delayed primarily due to a lack of power at the facility, which meant that a lot of the systems couldn't be installed and tested. We're working through the last bits with HMRC to get our licence as a supplier of fuel oil. This is a process that's been seemingly fairly complex, as while the council does, of course, use a huge amount of fuel in its daily operations for waste lorries and all the other vehicles. We're the only department in the council that actually sells fuel to the public. So this has been a whole new thing that we've been going through. So a lot of boxes to tick and a new experience for all of us. We've been working with colleagues in finance and future transformation to ensure that, of course, all of our processes, reporting, auditing, are then, of course, compliant with all our current mechanisms and policies. We're continuing to develop the key area further. We're accessing options for more storage areas for fishing gear, the provision of waste management and fishing gear recycling areas. We're also looking at plans to provide a covered area where fishermen can work to repair nets and other equipment whilst remaining sheltered from the elements. We're hoping to open the public realm area of the quayside very soon, Easter or very shortly after. This is primarily to allow a period of bedding in where we allow the commercial operations to get underway, and we can really kind of double check our risk assessments on how things are operating there before allowing the public in. We look forward to welcoming everyone, of course, to an official opening event. Commercial Port Burton notable traffic. While it says here there's been no notable commercial vessel movements, actually since the time of writing, the tug Kingston has now left the harbour to continue working as a tug for a vessel scrappage company on the River Thames. Kingston, of course, has been a fixture in the harbour for many, many years, and she's been worked on recently and is in very good condition. On one hand, you know, we're sad to see her go, but we're glad that the vessel is going to continue to be used, hopefully for many years, and kept very busy. No acts of pilotage have taken place during this reporting period, and as James, of course, has reported in the other two harbours, we've got a significant programme of events coming up. The usual bits and pieces that we see every year: Fair in the Square, Folk Festival, Lifeboat Week. But we've also got another couple of one-offs that are happening this year. The National Mixed Gig Championships at the end of May. We've got another tour ship, the Santa Maria, so this is the third different tour ship to visit in the last couple of years. We've got the Surf Lifesaving Nationals in the early part of August. As I say, we're hoping to welcome the Waverley to the harbour in early September. With Ironman and the Seafood Festival, with the upcoming repair works to Walls F&G and the constriction on the sides of the car park, the Ironman event identified earlier on that they weren't able to work within a smaller area, so they've decided for this year to relocate. As we understand, in the future, it's their intention to come back to their usual route. But let's say Ironman taking place this year. The Seafood Festival, again, we worked with them for a long time, looking to find a way that the Seafood Festival could take place on the peninsula. But again, they felt they were unable for it to take place in a smaller area, and they've taken the decision that they won't hold the Seafood Festival this year. It's my understanding that they fully intend to be back in 2026. And of course, to finish off the year, the usual popular Christmas Day swim, which I'm sure will be very well attended. Thank you, Chairman. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Ed. I believe Councillor Ray Bryan has a hand up. It's been up for a long time, so I was waiting until the end of your briefing before we went to Ray. Thank you, Ray.
Thank you, Chair. Question for Ed. I'm slightly confused by page 31 of your report. For a member of the public reading this, they will think that we've had 140,000 visitors in the 21-22, 152,000 in 22-23. I know that is pound notes. I thought I'd requested that pound notes were included on these reports so we can differentiate between numerical figures and financial figures. Can I just confirm that I'm correct in thinking that these are pounds, not visiting visitors? Can I just get an answer on that one first?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Bryan. My apologies. Yes, I believe we have had that conversation. I know we had decided to remove sort of decimal points to make things simpler, but yeah, you're quite correct. We have got a mix of financial and number statistics there. So the visiting leisure craft is revenue, as is the slipway and permit revenue, and the bottom three are numerical. So yeah, absolutely, point taken. My apologies for that. We'll make sure we include pound signs on all of the revenue figures moving forward.
And if I may, Chair, just so I don't miss the opportunity, you've already mentioned the fact we're losing one of the greatest assets that we've had in Harbours for a long, long time. No disrespect to other officers, of course, but with Dr. Ken Buchan now leaving us, I think this is a very sad day for the council. I think personally, I had better add personally, I think it's a very sad position that we've got ourselves into on this. But I would like to place on record that in the 5 years I worked with Ken, responsible for Harbours, he gave me great assistance and a lot of time, and doesn't get the credit for the time that he spends way outside the working hours, because Ken and I would have conversations at 7 o'clock at night and very early in the morning. He always was at my back to make sure I had the support. So Ken, I wish you all the best. I will make sure I get to see you before you leave. And from me personally, a big thank you. Back to you, Chair. Thank you for letting me do that.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bryan. I believe Richard Tinsley would like to say something next. Thank you, Richard.
Yes, thank you. Just one note and two questions, please. Firstly, I'd just like to commend the Harbours team for implementing the safety reporting system. Key objective of the Marine Safety Plan. I think I'm right in saying it's a little ahead of schedule, so well done on that. I think the end of March was the plan, so well done. And certainly welcome that being rolled out across the 3 harbours. I think it's a real credit to them for getting that piece of work done. And I think it'll stand us in good stead with going forward with a good database for trend reporting on safety and environmental matters. So a real well done to them for that. Just a question on the pilotage. Clearly, we were ready to submit, and the DFT are now going through a different process. It does give us some risk of being beholden to the slowest harbour in the queue, which we've no control over. Do we have any sense of how long that process might take?
Thank you, Richard. I'm afraid no is the short answer at this moment. I've only in the last sort of month or so, through our designated person, had some conversations, with the DFT. As I say, we're working on this, and that's a question that I will raise at our next meeting to get an idea of time frame. Because I agree, if this is something that's going to take another many years to achieve, then I think we possibly need to be a little bit more pushy in getting what we want done ahead of time. I agree. Thank you.
And final question, I just note on Harbour Assist, I think we recognise the customer service and efficiency benefits that the package will give, but I think we should also recognise maintaining old disparate software carries its own risks, and Harbour Assist gives a really good opportunity to integrate with a properly supported package that would include some of the safety reporting as well. I just wonder if there's any opportunity to just accelerate a review into implementing this or a similar package, I think, which would give real benefit to the harbours.
Yes, thank you. As way of a slight update on that, I suppose, of course, we've been working with our colleagues in various departments to sort of overcome some of the hurdles and make sure that we're being as compliant with, being fully compliant, of course, with the way Council requires us to operate. Having had all these discussions with officers, I need to have a chat with Councillor Andrews, and we fully intend on presenting our findings to the Executive Director for Place Services to see if we can then get some final resolution on how we can progress here. So I'm hoping that that this won't go on for very much longer. Like I say, we've already done a considerable amount of work on this. Excuse me, and it's like I say, it's now time to present our findings and get a decision on how we can proceed. I think. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ed. I believe. Thank you for all those updates, and we note them all. I believe that Councillor Baldwin is online and wanted to ask a question, but we've not been informed of what the question is. And the process is, please, you really need to let us know what your question is before the meeting, as you're not part of this committee. And we need to move on to the next item on the agenda at this time, as we're on a schedule today. I'm sorry, Linda. Thank you very much. And we now move on to FCERM update with Matthew Penny. Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you, Chair. My report starting in Bridport Harbour. Respect to dredging, the F7 team will support the Harbours team deliver the necessary operations as described by the Harbour Master earlier on. Inspections and repairs. 2024 inspections were completed. Defects have been logged, costed and programmed into my asset team's work schedule. 2025 inspections are due to commence in May this year, and that goes for all 3 harbours and will continue throughout the summer. Harbour Wall A works, no significant update here. The team intent is still to combine the Wall A works with the Wall B works for efficiencies and cost-saving purposes. Harbour will be stabilisation and repair. The design for the repairs and remediation will be have been completed. A public meeting, as the Chair noted, a public meeting was held in late January to allow kiosk owners plus the local town and Dorset councillors to see the plans and ask any questions about the work. Currently, the team are working on preparing the information for the marine licences which are required. Monitoring equipment was damaged during storms and inclement weather, and the team is currently working to repair that. There is an emergency plan being developed in case of further substantial movement of the wall, but this brings with it its own health and safety and environmental licensing requirements. If I move on to Lyme Regis Harbour, the dredging there, as West Bay, the F-17 continues to support the Harbours team. New dredging techniques have been explored, and the Coastal Risk Management team have currently been successful in getting support for Natural England for a potential trial. Inspections and repairs, as with West Bay, defects have been logged, costed and programmed for this coming year, and the inspections will commence in spring and summer. Item C, the COB repairs. This primarily centres around the seaward base of the COB buildings and the condition of it. We are continuing to work with our property team to manage the situation, but as was noted last meeting, the works are still paused due to a lack of available budget. Item D is the Lyme Regis Environmental Improvement Scheme Phase 5. I've given a comprehensive update, Chair, in my response to the question put forward by the public, so I don't propose to repeat myself in that respect, if you're okay with that. 1.3 is Weymouth Harbour. Nothing to note in dredging terms. Inspections and repairs. 2024, all defects identified in the 2024 inspections, again, have been logged and costed and programmed, and they'll be carried out during 2025. Stone Pier handrail health and safety report has been completed and repairs discussed with the Harbour team. The team are investigating if the benefit of either having a full replacement project versus localised repairs. Grab rails and ladders are be replaced at the same time. Weymouth Flooding Coastal Erosion Risk Management Scheme Phase 1. The adapted pathway for the scheme is being assessed with consideration of preferred harbourable options. The review of the beach modelling results is nearing completion, after which optioneering for the Esplanade can be progressed. Baseline surface water modelling is being finalised, optioneering and do something modelling scope to follow. A surface water steering group is due to be established, but this work is ongoing. Economics appraisal is ongoing as well. Funding bid pre-submission consultation is underway with the Environment Agency, and a partnership funding approach is being progressed. Construction commencement for this scheme is still scheduled for the winter of 2027/2028. Harbour Walls F&G on the peninsula. The tender process of the construction contract has concluded and the provisional award letter has been sent to the winning contractor. The standstill period has started, but this ended on Friday, 21st of February. There are still environmental consents issues that the team are currently addressing, and additional information has been sent to the Marine Management Organisation and Natural England for review. Currently, internal legal advice is being sought on the issue of biodiversity again and how that will be dealt with during the planning processes. Construction is due for completion in spring 2026 now, which is a verbal update on the written report before you. And that concludes my report, Chair.
Very much, Matthew. Are there any questions for Matthew? Nothing from Ray. Trying to make sure no hands up. Thank you very much. The committee notes your report. Thank you. We move on now to agenda item 9. Get my words the right way around. Which is budget monitoring report with James Radcliffe from West Bay. Thank you, James.
Thank you, Chair. Starting with report. So the figures can be seen on Appendix 1. The expenditure overall is favourable. Sorry. The main variance to the budget predictions are an underspend is forecast on the pay budget due to the vacant harbour assistant mechanic post. This is partially offset by an anticipated increase in cost due to a recent JE exercise for the harbour assistants on both harbours. Minor overspend on business rates, and the main area for this was an increase in charge in the Bridport Arms car park. Overspend on transport budgets, and this is caused by increased vehicle repair and maintenance, and also vehicle rental costs. Well, we've had some vehicles being repaired on long term, waiting for parts. Significant underspend on the dredging budget, and this is due to no full year dredging in 24-25. A lot of the saving was offset by the increase in equipment costs, and this was the purchase of the timber piles. So we've got enough in stock for the next 2 or 3 years' works. And an overspend on the contractors' cost. Part of that was a new AMPR barrier to control access to the East Pier. The income is expected to be adverse, and this shortfall in contributions income due to the mechanics post, which is affecting the boat repair income. But all boating and more related income is forecast to be around budget, but there's overall the fees and charges shortfall due to bad debt provisions. Reserve movements originally was budgeted to be 91,000, but we're expecting to transfer 43,000 to reserves, leaving a balance of 170,000. And for Lyme Regis, the budget can be seen on Appendix 2. The expenditure is overall favourable, and there's a minor overspend on internal charges relating to highways costs to do with dredging. There's significant overspend on the pay budget due to increased seasonal hours and the back pay for the job evaluation exercise. There's an overspend on rates due to taking back the liability of the Fishermen's and the Cob Traders Association car parks. There's an underspend on the dredging due to no major dredging costs in 24-25. And then there's an overspend on the private contractors. Income is adverse, and this is mainly because there's no dredging, there's no Environment Agency grant due this year. All the fees and charges income is mainly due on budget, with the car park for Ozone Terrace coming in above budget. There's no reserve movements to transfer for Lyme, as it's still funded by the corporate centre. So 19,000 is looking to be transferred back to the corporate centre at year end. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, James. We now move on to...
Questions to James first.
Any questions to James first before we move on? No, nothing from Ray. So if we could ask Claire Connolly to now give us the update for Weymouth Harbour. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. The budget forecasts for Weymouth are given at Appendix 3. Current predictions are that there will be a surplus of just over 529,000, which will be transferred into the Harbour Reserve at the year end. Overall, income is expected to be higher than the original budget. On the whole, performance against budget is mostly on track. Income from vessels visiting for overnight stays remains good. Income from winter berthing this year is also higher than previous years, and income from commercial berthing and harbour-owned car parks are all also an improving picture. Areas where income's not expected to be on target have been mentioned previously in Ed's report, but visitors using the slipway for day launches is lower than previous years. And whilst the occupancy in the marina does remain high, it is lower than previous 2 years, and it's likely that the budgeted figures won't be achieved with a shortfall of around 2%. However, this is an improving picture from the report in December, and we do continue to get lots of new inquiries for both annual and particularly temporary berthing. Our expected outturn on expenditure is higher than budgeted costs. This relates to a sort of more recently agreed use of funds to contribute to the harbour wall repairs, namely walls F and G. Paragraphs 3.10 and 3.11 set out the sort of proposed mechanism of funding for this over a 3-year period. It's a combination of funding from both revenue budget and reserve balances. The Harbour Walls Fund will be set up for these contributions to be transferred into until the funding gap for the current walls work is confirmed. Then the long-term intention would be to transfer a percentage of surplus each year into this fund. This will enable the harbour to be better prepared for future financial pressures and to reduce the risk of long-term harbour priorities. There's no intention to deviate from the works that have been set out in the Harbour Asset Management Plan or the development and project funds. Details of the reserves is covered in paragraph 3.8 and on the financial summary. The harbour reserves have been built up to enable the harbour to be financially self-sufficient, and Weymouth Harbour continues to achieve a balanced budget whilst building the ability to invest in the harbour. We're committed to fund works associated with the key regeneration project. The first decision record of £400,000 was put in place in 2023 to cover an overall increase in construction costs. The second decision record of £400,000 was sought due to further costs beyond the original project specification. It's likely that only half of the second £400,000 is going to be needed, and once those total costs are confirmed, only the actuals will be transferred. This means that the budgeted surplus of £838,000 will reduce to £529,000. As stated before, this will be transferred into the reserves. The reserves will be committed to increasing the dredging and pleasure pier reserves fund, increase the reserves that are set aside to fund the asset management plan and the development and project plan. Details of these projects and the estimated 5-year spend for both of these are shown within the report in paragraph 3.25 and 3.26. These include a programme of works to replace Inner Harbour Marina, visitor pontoons and enhancements to the commercial area. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claire. Are there any questions? If not, we will note the report and say thank you very much for all the hard work you've done in preparing all that. Thank you. We move on now to item 10, monitoring and review of the Marine Safety Plan, which Ed Carter is going to present.
Thank you, Chairman. Just in summary, at the Harbours Advisory Committee meeting in December 2022, the Dorset Council Harbours Marine Safety Plan was approved, which can be viewed at Appendix 1. The requirement for a marine safety plan is part of the Port Marine Safety Code and identifies and prioritises necessary improvements to achieve full compliance with the code. The plan sets out actions and timetables for delivery and is to be monitored, of course, by the Harbours Advisory Committee meetings, and in doing so, progress against the plan will be publicly reported. Skipping on to the plan, just looking at the items that are in the plans and objectives, not a huge amount of change on a lot of these, as a lot of them are reported annually through our normal committee process and our updates. Of course, the review of the Bridport Competent Harbour Authority status, James has said, we are still awaiting confirmation of sign-off of the HRO. We are led to believe that we are right at the top of the queue and next to be signed off. We have heard that there is a bit of movement within the marine management organisation for these orders to be getting signed off. However, I say we are at the mercy of them, their mercy on this. And of course, the review of the general directions of Bridport and Lyme will, of course, will come into effect once the HRO is in place, allowing us to issue general directions. The review of the latest audit recommendations was, again, that's done as appropriate, and of course these are reported in September. We've got our next audit coming up in Lyme Regis on the 25th of March, which will be the annual, and of course the results will be presented by our designated person later in the year. The incident and accident incident reporting system, as we've already mentioned, we've reviewed and adopted a revised system in Weymouth, and that's being rolled out to be adopted across the 3 harbours. I think Richard Tinsley might want to say something on this item. I'm not sure, because we've had a brief discussion over email recently. The safety plan, while it does, of course, fulfil compliance with the Port Marine Safety Code, this is an item that I've inherited since taking up the post at Weymouth. It's not something that has been reviewed in a great depth. And like I say, while it does provide compliance, I believe I'm hoping to carry out some work with Richard soon to develop the plan a little bit further. But if there's any questions, I'll hand that over. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ed. Richard, do you have anything to say this time?
Yes, I think we just reflect that the Marine Safety Plan is a requirement of the Safety Code, but also it's the framework document for the Harbour Authority and this committee to really set policy and direct safety objectives. It's had a cycle, and I think it's been effective in setting some clear objectives and driving some real safety improvements, notably the reporting system. So I think, in its first cycle, I think it's had some real benefit. I'd like to propose, though, that I'm conscious coming up we're implementing the harbour revision orders. There's quite a lot of change going through, and I think we just need to be aware that our plan is reflecting some of those changes. So what I'm proposing is that the plan itself documents a more structured annual review. I would note that it does get an annual review at the moment, but I think we could just formalise a more structured review, possibly with a working party from this committee to assist, and inputs from the designated person who's got sort of the wider aspect of changes coming through with the Port Marine Safety Code and everything else. So the document itself just to reflect the structure of the review, and I think it will set us in good stead for the next cycle of this plan, which, as I say, I think has had some real benefit, but I think there's an opportunity just, with our continuous improvement hat on, just to take it further. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard, for those valued thoughts. And yes, we will be looking at this going forward, definitely. Is there anybody else with a question? If not, we will duly note the Marine Safety Plan. And thank you, Ed, for that delivery. Our next item on the agenda is item 11, which is the forward plan. And I believe that Ed Carter is going to be delivering this on behalf of Ken Buchan. So thank you very much, Ed.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. And of course, if I could echo the sentiments raised by people already, we're very sad to see Ken leaving the council in my relatively short time, just over 2 years here now. I say he's been absolutely invaluable and instrumental in enabling me to take up my role, providing a huge amount of information, both current and historic information of decisions that have been made in the past and why things have gone as they have. So yes, he'll be greatly missed, and of course we all at the Harbours wish Ken the best of luck with all of his future ventures. Thank you. The forward plan, as you are all very well aware of, contains a lot of items that we routinely report on. Of course, we have the Harbour Master's regular reports. We have the consultative group reports. We have our budget monitoring, the flood coastal erosion risk management report. We have a biannually look at the marine safety plan. And I'd just like to say I absolutely echo Richard's comments on the safety plan. Like I say, this is a document that was in place before I arrived, and while it does form a level of compliance, it's absolutely right that it is regularly reviewed and in depth. I've already got some ideas based on methods of reporting that I've used in previous roles within Harbours. I'm looking forward to working with Richard and with members on taking this forward. Thank you. The business plan update. This is something that we report on really through the Harbour Masters updates and through the budget report. We haven't got any specific business plan updates to levy at this time. There is a huge amount of future development work around the Weymouth, Chickerell and Portland area moving forward into the future, which dovetails, of course, very closely with the way we would like to see the harbour develop in future. I'm working very closely with colleagues and the new Strategic Director for Weymouth 2014, Mr. Matt Piles, to ensure that the wants for the harbour and the identified projects within the business plan are all fitting properly within the wider development wishes for the area, to ensure that we're all pulling in the same direction, of course. The incident analysis, as I said earlier, we're going to be bringing in June a more comprehensive analysis through to the committee of the incidents. Now, the analysis itself and the data that we're interested in will remain always up for discussion. What the system that we're putting in place, what it enables us to do, is to analyse the data we've got in a wide variety of ways, which we currently haven't been able to do up until now. So in June, I shall be presenting what I feel to be a useful set of statistics, but what we present in June is by no means the only statistics we can get. And if the committee has requirements or requests in future, or if we think there's a particular area that we should be concentrating on, then of course we can look at that data in different ways and present it in different ways in future. Going on from, again, Richard's comment earlier, I believe that an annual incident analysis report should form part of the Marine Safety Plan as well. So again, this is something that we'll be looking to put in and take forward. Economic analysis of the Dorset harbours, and this is something that was identified as an action within the harbours strategy, which is to consider, I'd like to bring forward a paper later in the year, which is to consider the scope for analysis of the economic contribution of the harbours, the harbour activities in activities within their respective towns. Now, in the past, there have been a couple of relatively recent economic reports done. We've got the Fisher report, of course, and the Tale of Two Fisheries. Both of these reports were pre-COVID, and of course, there are many, many things that have changed within the economy over the last few years. We believe it's right to carry out further economic analysis of the harbours, which will again feed more directly into the next iteration of our business plan as we approach the end of this decade. There are various ways that we could go about this. One of the things that we are particularly interested in is the visitor spend within the respective towns when people are coming in. Where are they spending their money? Is it in the pubs? Is it in the restaurants? Is it in the chandleries? And how often are they coming? How much are they spending? There is a much wider piece of work shortly to be carried out with regards to development within Dorset, which is being carried out through Dorset Council and, of course, through the communications team. I'm working with our colleagues in communications and within development to ensure that the economic analysis that we do within the harbours, again, feeds in more directly to this wider piece of work and becomes useful for everyone to utilise. I think at the moment that concludes the items on the forward plan. Thank you, Chair. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Ed, for the update. And it's noted. Are there any questions on the update at this stage? No? Then thank you. As I say, we will note the forward plan. Thank you. Item 12 on the agenda is urgent items. We have no urgent items of business today, so we can move on. Item 13, exempt business, and there is no exempt business today on the agenda. So we move on to the next scheduled meeting, which will be Wednesday, the 11th of June, 2025. And we therefore bring this meeting to an end. And we say thank you to Councillor Ray Bryan for joining us online today. Thank you to everybody else for your attendance. Thank you.